We're now joined by Dr. Atilla Kisla, International Justice Cluster Lead, Southern Africa Litigation Center. This is to continue the conversation around the ICJ hearings that we've been monitoring today. Doctor, good afternoon and thank you for your time.
Thanks so much for having me.
No, it's a pleasure to have you with us. I don't know if you were able to just catch a little bit of the proceedings that we had broadcast now where we listened to Dr. Riyad Maliki, an impassioned plea to say, can the rights of Palestinians be enforced? He said that peace, law, and the people of Palestine are in jeopardy and that Israeli leaders are no longer hiding their intentions to finish the people of Palestine. Your views on just what we heard?
I think today we saw a very strong submission in favor of accountability for the ongoing violations and the violations of the past of international law. And from what we saw today, I think the points that were made by the representatives of the state of Palestine on whether it's the right of self-determination or the unlawfulness of the annexation, settlements, and the ongoing the occupation of Palestine, I think we saw a very strong submission today.
And we could see that he was quite emotional, holding back tears. But if we had to look at these particular hearings, I mean, they're said to be the most historic hearings, we understand, because an unprecedented 52 countries and 3 international bodies will be making submissions. Now, just for the benefit of those who might not be certain, can you provide further clarity by helping us distinguish this particular matter that's sitting now from the South African matter that was brought by our country?
So what the hearings that will be ongoing throughout the week and that have started today are hearings around with respect to an advisory opinion by the International Court of Justice. The International Court of Justice has been asked to provide an advisory opinion on specific legal questions by the UN General Assembly. So it's not like the provisional measures that South Africa led against Israel a few weeks ago, where South Africa brought actually a case to the court and where we have a dispute between two states. So here we got, these are hearings for the advisory opinion. And the key difference is that these advisory opinions on paper are not legally binding on the state parties.
There's a view by many analysts that whatever the outcome of this particular matter that's sitting now, these hearings, it would have a significant bearing on Part B of South Africa's application that it sent to the ICJ. Your views on just that possibly if the advisory does indeed reprimand Israel for what could be termed occupation of Palestinian territory, then it would most certainly assist in South Africa's case, would it not?
One will have to see whether the court will go into that direction. One has to differentiate here. The case that South Africa brought is limited to the Genocide Convention. The case that we have here, or the advisory opinion request that we have here, is covering the ongoing violation by Israel of the right of the Palestinian people to self-determination from its prolonged occupation, settlement, and annexation of the Palestinian territory that goes back to 1967. So here in this matter, we have a much wider time span, and we're going actually back to have a time frame of over 5 decades. So this is a much wider case, and we will have to see to what extent this will have an impact on the ongoing cases or any future cases.
Now, some of the nations expected to make submissions are the United States, Russia, as well as China. Now, these 3, of course, are part of the P5, that's the permanent 5 countries on the UN Security Council, so they have a lot of power and influence. If we had to look at these 3 countries, perhaps starting with just China, just talk us through their policy insofar as Israel and Palestine are concerned.
We'll have to see what the state parties will actually submit in the oral proceedings. It's definitely is we will see the opposing views with respect to Palestine and the state of Palestine. We expect from, for instance, for the United States, a position that's supporting Israel and its probably its right to self-defense, and probably some degree of defense of the situation. But we will have to see how it turns out.
Most certainly will be interesting. But then as for the advisory itself, how does it assist the UN?
Well, whilst on paper the advisory opinion is not legally binding, it will certainly have an impact on UN organs like the requesting organ of the UN, the UN General Assembly, but also other organs of the UN. Because this legal assessment can be used by other UN organs, but also by states to feel more secure about a certain legal position they want to take in respect of the occupation of Palestine or the annexation, ongoing annexation. So I think it will have like an impact on the entire international community to respect that. We also saw at the example of the provisional measures, where now last week we actually had a Dutch court ordering that the Netherlands cannot anymore provide, I think, parts for fighter jets to Israel. So there you can already see that the courts, the judicial system, and the countries themselves, they are known for supporting Israel, are already taking measures. And once this advisory opinion comes out, I think it might even have a much bigger impact than we have seen with the provisional measures.
So it will have a significant impact politically as well as morally, that here, if it's non-binding, at the very least, it does hold weight politically and morally.
Certainly, definitely, and we will. When this advisory opinion comes out, I assume it will only come out at the earliest towards the end of the year. But even though, like I said, not binding on paper, states will take notice of the advisory opinion, and especially in terms of its the ruling with respect to the application of international law, but also to what extent we have an illegality here and illegal conduct and unlawful conduct by Israel and Israeli authorities.
All right, Doctor, thank you very much for your insights this afternoon. That's Dr. Atilla Kisla. He's an International Justice Cluster lead at the Southern African Litigation Center.